Hello, it's Richard Haggerty here. And one of the things that I get asked a lot about is I've had this so many times over the years, over the past 2.5 decades, where somebody phones up and says, oh, look, I've got a friend, a family member, husband, a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, work colleague, neighbour. What can I do to help them to quit smoking? And usually the conversation that I have with them is, will boil down to this. What is that person's motivation? And I'm willing to have a conversation with them, but they'll need to call me. Now, it very rarely from that position of somebody phoning up me to ask for help for another person, does that resolve or does that result in anything truly different happening? Why? Because the person who they're concerned about is not at the point where they can stop smoking. Their motivation's not there. They have many fears, they have many concerns. Yes, if they were to call me, if we were to have a conversation, we'll be able to resolve a lot of that and we'll be able to get them to the point where they're able to change. Okay. But most people who are smokers are very wily. They've spent most of their years, their formative years, smoking. They love it. It feels like a friend. It's a way to escape. Yes, they want to quit on one level. Yes, they know they shouldn't be doing it. But of course, they've had society, their friends, their family, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their partner, their husband, their wife, colleagues, neighbours telling them to quit. So they've become quite immune to it. And you have to understand that people smoke because of the deep psychological, emotional needs that they get. Okay. And if you think about the things in your life that you really enjoy, that are really meaningful for you, if somebody said, oh, just stop doing that, you can't have that anymore, that's silly. All right, you'd automatically and instinctively feel some resistance to that. We don't have to go and watch sports every week. We don't have to watch our favorite thing on TV. We don't have to eat our favorite foods. We don't have to spend time with our favorite people, but we like to. All right, and once somebody has that emotional connection to something, you have to tread very, very carefully. Now, this video series is going to look at how to have deeply engaging and reflective conversations with smokers and not antagonize them or cause defenses to come up. Let me repeat that. I'm going to show you how to have deeply engaging and reflective conversations with smokers and not antagonize them or cause defenses to come up. So this is going to be a really, really important thing, because there's no one out there who teaches you how to have these kind of conversations with the people you care about with smoking. All right. And what you're going to find is there's going to be an emphasis here, which is the emphasis really when I train people, actually fellow therapists and coaches, and in this kind of area, is not to try and change people directly. All right. Have you ever had the experience of somebody who comes along and tries telling you that you should change something? You should become a vegetarian, you should become a vegan, you should start eating meat, you should start running more, you should start doing this, you should read this book, you should do that, you should make this change to your life, you should do all these things. And it's unsolicited, right? And even if it's for our greater good, we like to have a sense of agency. We enjoy having free will. We like to be able to make our own conscious choices about things. So if somebody is trying to force us or edge us or manipulate us, we can sense it. So why traditional sales doesn't work so well. It's why we're really immune to those kind of things where we say, oh, I had a friend who was like really overweight and sitting on the sofa, and they went out and they started running, and look at them now. Whilst they're looking at you sitting on the sofa with a goofy grin on their face, thinking they're very subtly suggesting to you that you too could do that, whilst they're irritating the heck out of you. All right, that's what we want to avoid. All right, we want to avoid antagonizing our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues who smoke, but we also want to help them. There is a way to do that. There's a way to do it very, very respectfully, okay, which is deeply, deeply empowering. Because let me tell you something, having worked with hundreds of smokers across many different countries in the world, I can tell you one thing. People will not change until they feel something inside them where they say, yeah, enough is enough, I want to do this now. All right. It's always got to be internally generated for it to be a long-term lasting solution. But what we can do is we can provide the supportive atmosphere, the supportive environment, a kind of reflective inner environment where these ideas can percolate and they can think about them. All right. So we're going to be going quite deeply to this. And in fact, by the way, the skills you're going to learn here are applicable really to any area of life. All right. And the key underlying premise is this: do not try to tell people what to do and change them. Resist the idea of judging, and you will empower them to have more choices to change. All right. Because remember, this is about how to have deeply engaging and reflective conversations with smokers and not antagonize them or cause defenses to come up. So what are we going to be looking at in these? Well, we're going to be looking at in these videos. Okay. There are a few questions that we're going to look at. All right. And I want to give you an idea of some of the kinds of themes that we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at the problem with helping someone and what we call secondary gain and personal responsibility. We're going to look at the problem with trying to help someone directly when you're trying to give them advice and make them change. We're going to look at the two moments of change that happen inside people, so you understand the journey that smokers have to go through, or indeed anyone has to go through to make a change. If you understand that, you'll understand the role, the foundational role that you can play in empowering people. And as long as you bear in mind this idea of not trying to change them and you allow enough time, you're going to be playing a significant part in their transformation. And it may well happen much quicker than you ever thought possible by you changing your approach and changing your outlook. All right. And remember, look, if you wait for the world to change before you're happy and content, good luck with that. Right. You're always going to be frustrated, but you can change yourself. All right. And when we're more flexible in our communication with other people, we tend to get different results. Okay. We're going to look at how not to begin a conversation about quitting smoking. Then we'll look at how to begin a conversation about quitting smoking. We'll look at the 3 rules of conversations with smokers. We'll look at the first question to ask them and why you would. You'll learn how to sustain conversations with smokers about quitting smoking. You'll understand follow-up questions to help smokers get to the root of what's really happening. You, of course, we've had a first question, so you'll have the second question to ask smokers and why. The third question to ask smokers and why, and then the invitation question and why not to rush this. All right. We'll look at an analogy of wanted versus unwanted presents and gifts. You'll learn about the importance of giving enough time. You'll learn about the consistency of your response and your behavior. And you'll also know how you will, by the end of this, how you're on track with helping somebody and when you're not. And the beauty of this is you will be getting very, very clear feedback from people, from smokers, from colleagues, friends, family, other people who you meet, neighbours, that they are starting to think differently. And when you get to this point, all right, quick heads up, this is the point when you're most likely to blow it. All right. This is the point where it's tempting to say, jump up in the air and go, yeah, I knew I could beat you. I knew I could show you. I knew I could teach you because I've been manipulating you all along subtly. Ha, 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 ha. Now, you might not think you're doing that, okay? But that, I'll show you the subtle version of that people do, okay? That causes them to completely blow it and unwind all the way. So by the time we get to in this video, you're going to have a very, very robust way of helping people, not antagonize them, and help sustain that. And here's a hint, right? When somebody says, you know, you got me thinking differently, you know, all you need to do is stay cool and subtle and go, you know what? That's brilliant. Sounds like you're onto something here. You know, I think you could be onto something. And you keep it subtle and you keep not trying to change, right? Because remember, the moment that you start to try and change someone, defenses will come up. It's just natural. We have to have psychological defenses inside us to be able to survive in our modern society, because there are plenty of people out there who do not have our highest good in mind, and there are people who are, quite frankly, trying to sell us inferior ideas or ideas that are not right for us. So we need to be able to be discerning and be able to distinguish. Okay, and it's good that your friends and your family and your co-workers have that. So the important thing here is to understand there's a set of skills here that it is possible to learn, that you can use to help somebody make any change. We'll be talking about, of course, smoking here, but this equally applies to weight loss. Any change somebody wants to make in their life, whether maybe they're single and they're thinking about getting out in the world again. All right, there'll be a similar kind of trajectory. Obviously, there'll be some differences as well in the way that we ask questions. But let's start with this. And any feedback that you have, any follow-up questions, do let me know. And you can do that. You can hit me up in the comments. You can ask me. Happy to do any follow-up on this. But you'll find if you go through all of this, that it's pretty comprehensive, and it should answer the bulk of the questions that people have. Why? Because I've been getting these questions and inquiries now for well over 2 decades. All right. And I know when somebody's ready to change. I know when they're not ready to change. And I know when, they turn up because their wife or their husband or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their partner or their work colleague told them to. And that, let me tell you, is not the greatest place to be. You want to help people. If you want to help somebody change, you've got to empower them so they feel like they made the decision, they're motivated, they own it, and then they get to bask in the glory of having made a change.